Kia ora everybody and welcome back to another episode of our Mental Health Awareness Week podcast for Ngahere Talks. As in one of our previous ones, we talked about our friend group, the Friends Are Family 2 crew, the FAF crew, and how we've done a lot of life together, a lot of highs and a lot of lows and everything in between. And I've been really enjoying the opportunity to chat about what mental health means to us, what kind of struggles we've been through, but then also how specifically or particularly through the power of really good relationships, we've been able to, find ways to manage mental health in our everyday lives. But I'm excited in this episode. We've got a couple of other of the FAF crew here with us. We've got Mel Masina. Kia ora, Mel.
Kia ora, Mel.
And we've also got Clint Vilita. What's up, brother?
Kia ora.
Kia ora. And then it's me and Mel T, Bob, Mel Talanoa.
Hi, Bob.
In
Hi,
the
Hayley.
house.
Manawa.
Hayley. Hello, my name is Hayley. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to chat a little bit more about mental health today. Clint's got a really cool radio voice, so hopefully he'll do some fun stuff for us as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. That's about it.
I have got a cool earring. Cool. All right, well, we're going to start by going around and just talking about what for you personally, what has been your kind of mental health struggle? What is the thing that you find that you're always trying to battle with? We'll start off with you, Clint.
So with me, with my mental health, it was growing up without my dad. It was always just am I blokey enough? Am I manly enough? Because I didn't really know who to kind of take those examples from, and also I was a bit different in high school and the guys that I hung out with. So a lot of my mates in high school, they were into rugby, into sports, and then you have me on the other end. I was doing drama and skits and all of that stuff. So growing up, it was just about trying to just come to terms and accept that even though I wasn't doing the stuff that typical blokes were doing, that it was there isn't sort of like there shouldn't be sort of like a box for a bloke to fit in.
Yeah.
Straight
up.
It should almost be like no typical bloke.
Yeah,
hey,
exactly. And even just doing stuff, it's funny because, my mates would mock me about being in cooking class, home ec class, but at the same time always wait for me to finish my class because I'd come out with food. So on one end they're like, oh yeah, shame, but at the other end they're like, oh yeah, me, let's get a food. Like they know to come and get a feed. So it's just different how I think when just thinking about how we kind of put male or masculinity in sort of boxes.
Yeah. And I think that must have been hard growing up without a dad and not having that, a strong male role model in your life. And I've heard a lot the term used, fatherless generation. We're growing a fatherless generation. And I guess from your perspective, how do you think that feeds into the mental health of us as a nation?
I think it's a real important. So with my dad, even though he was around, but it's just that I chose to grow up with my mum. But in terms of that, it's so powerful, like just to see how much of an influence your father figure has on you. So with me, it was because I spent a lot of time at my grandparents' place. It was my granddad, and I would take snippets of being with him and seeing him and his relationship with my grandma, with his faith, with his sort of mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. Because he was still running marathons at the age of 60.
Wow,
that's like us, guys.
Yeah. And he only started getting into it when he was 40. So just seeing him and how he conducted himself was really important for me to see another male figure doing that, because it kind of encouraged me to not only just be confined in just normal or the boxes that people try and put males in, but also
Yeah.
just to be confident, be confident in who you are,
Yeah.
and confident in everything you do. Doesn't matter what it is, but just as long as you're confident in what you're doing and you're passionate about what you're doing, then you shouldn't really, even though you do care about what people think, it doesn't really affect you that much.
Because how did it, like, practically, like, how did it affect you? Like, what was it about that you had, like, self-doubt, or did you have, like, anxiety, or
It
were
was
you, like,
more
self-harming, or, like, what was it?
It was more just being two personalities. So when I was with my friends and stuff like that, I would always be influenced from them quite a bit.
Yeah,
You know, they'd go and do things that they weren't supposed to be doing. I'd tag along. At school, I'd tag along when they, go have a cigarette behind the gym, go out to parties on the weekend, stay up unbelievable hours in the morning, graffitiing houses, stuff like that. So all of that stuff was because I didn't have anything to compare what I was supposed to be doing to. And even though my mum, she was quite strong in terms of raising us boys, because she was a solo mum at home, she had to work quite a lot. So I was easily influenced quite a bit from friends, neighbours, and just all of my mates.
Yeah. Mean. All right, bro. We're going to come back to that, I reckon. About you, sis, what's been your mental health struggles through life so far?
I think ever since I've been young, I've struggled with anxiety a lot. And that came from, I think, similar, like being fatherless, I guess, but also growing up in a single parent home and in being an only child as well, which I guess developed like a feeling of being alone.
Yeah.
And
It's all good.
already,
It's all good.
Thanks. But I think it was just things that stemmed from that, like growing up in that kind of environment. Yeah, and at the time, my mum also battled with mental health, so it's kind of a lot of things developed from.
Because you had it going on in your household, eh?
Yeah.
So what kind of like anxiety? What does that feel like to you?
For me, like at a young age through my primary years, it was so what would happen is so my mum was battling with it, but she struggled to go to sleep at night, so I would often like massage her head to get her to go to sleep and stay awake until she awoke like through the night, and then I'd massage her and so she'd go to sleep. And I think during those nights it developed the feeling of being alone, and I think along the years that I kind of like I developed negative thoughts patterns, and where I'd feel like someone was going to come harm us during the night.
Well, and like fear, eh?
Fear. Like a persistent fear that developed. And like I remember when I was like 8, I developed OCD. Like I'd go around the house before the sun went down and like check 3 to 5 times that the doors were locked, windows were locked. And and it continued for years, and sometimes I still do it now. But it's not to that extent as before.
Right.
But and I think also like I loved being around people, but when it came to conversations about personal things or even just the general like how are you, how's mum, I'd stress out.
Right.
Like I'd
Fine, I'm fine. Mum's fine. Why? How are you?
like that kind of thing. Or like I'd shut down. So because I was scared like I'd say the wrong thing, that I'd embarrass my mum or myself. So that's kind of what I felt like going through that.
And so do you think that like now that you're a little bit older, is that still something that you are battling with, or?
Yeah, I think I still battle with it. Probably not to the extent as before when I was younger, because I felt like growing up as an only child that I was alone. But now being older, I have like an awesome support of friends. And, so I don't have to do it alone. Like being at this age, and I think like I still get it now and then when I talk to adults, mainly like conversing. But it's not as bad as before.
And I think that it's like we mentioned it before about it being like overcoming's not the right word. Sometimes it's sometimes becomes something that you manage for your lifetime, like, and it's how you actually manage that. Like for you, Mel, I know you're a mum now yourself. From your experiences that you've had with mental health, how, I guess, does that play a role in the way that you parent yourself?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. I think when it comes to my son, I think like, because at the moment he's going through the phase where he's scared of the dark or being alone at night. So I think for like as a parent, like validating his feelings, like knowing, you know, like it's okay, like but also supporting him through it. So I'll be like, so I'll be like, okay, you go to sleep and then I'll come and check on you later. So, you know, letting him know it's okay to feel the way that he feels, which is important. And and I think also for myself, just recognizing like when I'm having those kind of thoughts, like my husband keeps me accountable to it.
Awesome.
Which has been really good. And I think that's important in terms of like parenting and myself. And
and it's so true, like that validation piece is like so crucial in just letting them know you're angry, that's okay. You can be angry, you know, like you're scared, that's okay. It's a valid emotion and it's okay to feel that. It's not like stop being scared or don't be scared of the dark, or, you know, and I think a lot of us,
to what you were saying, bro?
We grew up that way.
It's okay to be to feel how you feel.
And just like hearing what you were saying about like holding conversations with like other adults as well. So with me, it's for guys. When I talk to other guys as well, I get quite anxious because it's still kind of stuck in the back of my mind as well. Like when I'm talking to other guys, like because in my mind, every guy is like a real blokey, you know, blokey guy. So I always worry about what I say and if I do the right things around them as well. So that's
Yeah. What about you, Bob? I know we talked about our kind of struggles earlier, but maybe we'll just touch on them for sake of this new conversation.
Yeah, I think my struggle has been like pressure, being under pressure, and how, you know, we talked earlier about being kind to yourself. I think I can be really tough. I think lots of us are really tough on ourselves. And I think when the way that manifests when I'm not cutting myself enough slack is probably through like stress and then probably anger, and it's being able to identify now when the pressure's on and trying to catch myself before I get to that point and realizing like flip, I am under pressure, I'm not sleeping well or whatever, and then being able to implement what I can to get myself out of it. But that was, you know, it was a journey. I didn't realize I was mean to myself. So it took someone else pointing that out to me to be like, actually, you know, you've got this going on, like maybe just cut yourself a little bit of slack. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I talked a bit earlier about how for me it's been mostly about my challenge has been around depression, and a lot of it coming from like self-worth or self-doubt. But I think probably one of the other ones that has been there more in more recent years would be like how to manage. I feel like it's kind of loneliness is kind of the word, but not the reality of it. But I guess being single so long and what that's like. Ooh, it's going to get me on this one too. But that's all right. And being able to be in a place where you can kind of be okay with that. And how, even though, because I don't think loneliness is the right word, because I'm not lonely because I have a lot of people around me, but there's just that little bit of like, you know, when is it going to be my turn? When am I going to find that person that's going to, you know, help fill that void? Shut one. One's over there going like that. And that's been one in the recent years. And I actually feel like I'm in a really good place with it.
Yeah.
Even though I'm a little bit emotional right now. But it is something that, and because I think it comes back into that previous thing that I said about self-worth and self-doubt, and how you can get to a point where I suppose you can love yourself enough and believe in yourself enough that they're not the same thing, or like being alone or being single is not the same as how worthy you are.
Yeah,
Does
or
that make
attached
sense?
to it, or
Yeah,
attached
yeah,
to
yeah.
your
Yeah,
worth.
yeah.
Yeah, totally
and being
makes
able
sense.
to be comfortable in that space and comfortable in those new relationships, or the relationships that do exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's tough. Like, I
Mm.
mean, companionship and, you know,
Yes,
yearning to be with someone, like that's a yearning. Like, that's a human, God created us to be that way.
Yeah.
So,
And it can be twisted into a negative. Yeah.
yeah, totally. So that is a tough one. It's going to happen.
Oh, totally. Totally.
Then I'm going to buy your kids heaps of really, really noisy toys.
And white clothes and
Tambourine.
chocolate.
And make them cry
Xylophone.
and then leave.
Totally, Totally. One of the questions I thought would be good for this team is like, why do you think mental health or like bad mental health is so rife in New Zealand and Aotearoa? Why is it such a big challenge for us as a country?
I think us as a country, I think parts of our country is still, I think, kind of in denial, like that we do have a bad mental health issue.
Yeah.
We have so much resources, or so many resources going, so many other things, but also with everyone, like not just the government, but just like public people as well. We get a lot of people like doing push-up challenges, bringing awareness to all of that. But a lot of the stuff, we don't realize that it lies on us.
Yeah.
That everything, like mental health is not only affected by the person, but it relies on us too. Like, sure, you have mental health from stuff that you've done growing up, or sort of habits or traumas that you've had with personal experiences with your with parents or friends or stuff like that. But a lot of sometimes we could be guilty of causing mental health on someone else. That guy that might look weird, someone, going to school, like I'm guilty of it too. Going to school, I can just remember of all of the young people that I used to go to school with that didn't look like me, that didn't talk like me, and just giving them a hard time for it.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of that, I didn't realize that at the time, but a lot of that will sort of build up and create that sort of those mental health issues within them. But that wasn't on them, that was on me.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get frustrated, and it's not a bad thing at sometimes just all the challenges that go around. Bringing awareness to mental health, do 22 push-ups, 22 days. But what are you doing? What are you doing personally? Because that, to me, kind of like feels a bit trendy, like it's just a trend, like just do it just because.
100%, yeah.
And watch my biceps.
And
Yeah.
it feeds back
But
into
vain.
that whole social media,
Yeah.
beast.
Yeah, and then at the end of the day, it just comes down to, that's cool. You can put numbers up, you can bring awareness to it, but what are you doing? What are you doing personally? Are you saying hi to that person that no one says hi to? Are you actually? I've seen so many things about people going, I'm here if you want to talk. But then I've also seen so many people put that up, and then when people want to talk to them, they're nowhere to be seen. They don't.
I don't want to talk to that weirdo.
Yeah, I don't think they realize the reality of how imperfect it's going to be as well. You can say, you can come and talk to me whenever, but actually if someone with mental health comes and talks to you, and they have like such a rough topic to talk about, and you're not equipped yourself, then obviously you're just going to turn them away or not give them the right advice. So a lot of the issues with mental health as well, sometimes it falls on us as a public or as friends or as family. And we shouldn't rely solely on just the government and other external supports.
Yeah. Awesome, bro.
Yeah, 100%. Like, the government should be our last option, not our first. But unfortunately, that's not the reality,
Yeah.
But you're right. We need to take responsibility as a community for the mental well-being of
And the way we
our
treat each
community.
other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Why do you think, sis? It's so rife here.
I think like for myself, I feel like as a country we're not at a point where conversations like this is normalized, like where it's
We
normal.
can't even have it without crying, eh?
Yeah, like I think like being a teacher, like I see it even at a young age, like kids been through like traumatic stuff. They have kind of like a mental illness, but they're whenever you refer them to like a counsellor or even just general talking to them, they're like, oh shame, nah, I don't want to do that. Like they think they're perceived as weak if they do that. And I think I think that can also come like culturally as well, things that happen culturally. But for myself, I just think at the moment we're not at a point where we can have these kind of conversations where kids feel open to talking about what they're going through, how they're feeling, and as well as adults as well at our age. Like I can remember like I was in an interview and one of the kids started to open up about some stuff that linked to mental health, but the parents shut them down straight away because because they don't want to be judged like as a parent, or they don't want their kid to be they don't want their kid to be embarrassed or themselves. So I think we haven't got to that point where conversations like this can happen.
I think you're totally right. Like with those conversations, I think when it comes to, especially with youth, because I work in the youth work sector, and in terms of the decision making with mental health supports, I don't think there's enough voices from people that actually struggle from mental health that are making those or helping to steer those conversations.
Exactly.
Especially with youth as well. Because you can have so many meetings with a young person and tell them what they need to do to get over it, or not get over it, but sort of improve their well-being. That's all good, but then that's just something that's said to them to do. They haven't been a part of that sort of active conversation, or even kind of know what it's about, or being explained what's kind of happening. So you're totally right in terms of like normalizing the conversation. Because it does affect quite a lot of young people too that I've seen.
And then it's role modelling, like what you're saying, like you can talk about it, but how do you do it? And who's showing me how? I don't think that there are many people in Aotearoa that are. I mean, I think of Mike King and all the cool stuff he's doing. We were lucky to have a mean chat with him just not that long ago, and then hear him share stuff.
Yeah.
Are you gonna go?
Yeah, I was just going to say, and he actually, interestingly enough, talked around, I mean, you mentioned about people struggling with mental health having more of a voice in the way that we prescribe, people to get well here in New Zealand. And he just talked about a project that he went through, and he was involved in it, and they had accumulated some incredible research, and he just got shut down by his own board because he didn't have a doctorate, or he didn't have a piece of paper to say that he was professional enough or equipped enough to make these decisions, which is just crazy because he actually was fantastic.
Just on that project's called 1,000 Letters, and he just released it last week or this week even, and essentially they took 1,000 suicide notes, and they kind of just broke them down and collated them to get more insights into suicide for the purpose of preventing suicide. And they put it all together, and then all of a sudden all of the like academics and the health system and all that all have just like shut it out and said, nah, it's not legitimately researched, it's not legitimate information. And so he has released it. You can read it, you can go through his Keto Life Charitable Trust or his Insta. And he's a local guy, he lives around here, and because we got to speak to him face to face, you could just see how passionate he is, but also how heartbroken he was by the stupid system.
And I think that's part of the problem as well, how you're saying you have all these academics that are saying that it's not a legitimate, but it's from the people, it's from the actual people that are struggling with it. And I think sometimes, all the professionals or the academics, they look at it from one point of view, and that's the point of view of just what they've been taught, and that's the be all and end all.
Evidence and profit.
It's such a huge sort of broad, because not everyone is the same in terms of the mental health, and I think a lot of the times they do get shut down quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's I mean, we're trying to implement a colonized system with Indigenous people, and it just doesn't marry up. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. I think I saw something, how did they say it? Something like how New Zealand is like one of still the most colonized of all the British colonies.
Wow.
Even though Māori people are doing pretty well as far as Indigenous goes. And we chatted about this in the first session about how the effects of colonisation on Māori, potentially the effects of the migration of Pasifika people into Aotearoa, how it's almost like these new ways of don't talk about it, don't deal with it, sweep it under the rug. Those don't come from our people. Our people were far more into the well-being of each of us, the well-being of the individual, but more so the well-being of the whole. And that I feel like has been put on us, and we're living through the effects of that still generations later.
Yeah, definitely. Like a lot of the Western system is measurements. Like how can we measure that? What can we do to measure so that we're making sure that we're doing a good job? Whereas in Indigenous approaches, that needs to be done. I'll support you with this, or I'll teach you how to do that. There's no time frame. There's no measurements. Just as long as we're doing our best to look after you and making sure that you're improving your health as best as you can. And we're not going to put you in a box to kind of confine you in that, but we're going to help you grow, and we're going to be there every step of the way. Whereas in, I think, Western system is really like,
take
okay,
this
I'm gonna
pill.
I'm gonna work up with you until a couple of weeks, and then once that's done, that's it. You should be healed by then or fixed by then.
Take this medicine. This will numb the pain.
Or they're like, there's no box that you fit in. We'll create one.
Totally. Why don't we start talking about some of the techniques or the tools that you can use, that you guys use personally, or that you've seen other people use to help, start to. I mean, we talked about the first step in the journey of trying to find your own mental health, is identifying what you're struggling with, and then it's like trying to find out what are the ways that I can manage this. What are some of the ways that you guys manage your challenges?
For me, I think it's finding things that I enjoy and actually doing them. So when I was younger, I had awesome friends and neighbours that would take me out to the outdoors, go on boats, go for hikes up Matakana and stuff.
Nice.
So so ever since then, I've really enjoyed being in the outdoors and doing practical activities like sports. So when I find myself in those kind of spaces, I take time to go and do something that I actually enjoy, and and I guess resting as well.
Yeah, awesome.
I find when I am overtired that I tend to get more anxious or more stressed.
Right. Yeah.
So for me, that's one of the things I'm still working on, is actually going to sleep and having a proper rest.
Yeah.
So that, and also just being around people. I'm fortunate to have amazing friends like you that I get to hang out and do life with. I remember during youth, one of my friends who knew what was going on would just text to see if I was doing all right. And then if I wasn't, then they'd come and pick me up with a bunch of other friends and would just go hang out, which was cool. So I think things like that, friends like that, where you are comfortable being who you are, and they create a safe space for you, is important as well.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, for me, it's I like being creative, so like singing, and also making sort of trying to be creative with either TikToks or not so much TikTok, but I like making short clips or short films or brainstorming stuff like that as well. But also at a young age, I kind of learnt, because my mum was working quite a bit and I was at home quite by myself with my younger brother as well. I think I kind of learnt how to sort of self-regulate my emotions quite a lot, because I got left at home quite a lot, and something that I picked up. So just comparing things as well, for me, that works. Might not work for everyone, but my brother, he has a mental disability, so I always compare my life to his life, because it helps me sort of reset where I'm at and what I can do and what I'm capable of doing and what I'm sort of grateful for. So I'm lucky enough to have control of my mind, my body, whereas my brother is not. So whenever I feel something negative creeping up in the back of my mind, I always bring that up.
So good.
That's beautiful.
That it's that you should be grateful, or for me anyway, that I should be grateful that I can even do the things that I'm doing because my brother, he's not able to do that. Also being involved with Camp Quality as well for 15 years. That sort of put a whole new perspective on my state of mind as well. So Camp Quality is a camp for kids with cancer. So I've been involved with them 15 years. And you have these kids full of life, no fear, but some of them don't have an option. They're just born with cancer. They end up getting sick. They lose, I don't know, maybe some of they get developed effects from the chemo, or they might lose an arm or a leg, and they had no choice. So they had no choice in that. So I kind of, for me, that's kind of play the comparison game and weigh up my life compared to other lives, not that you see on TV, but actually lives that you that you've dealt with face to face. Or
I like that you brought that up too, because we talked about comparison in one of these episodes, but in the negative way, and how, and particularly through social media, and how comparison can help add to your challenges. But then I like what you're saying about using that to help you realize your privileges as well, and what you do have, and to be grateful for what you do have. And it reminded me of this time a few years ago where one of my friends was in Aotearoa. They don't live here, but we grew up together. She's probably one of my longest friends since we were like 11 or 12. And we were talking about something, I can't remember what it was, and I just made this comment where I was like, oh man, I wish blah, 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 blah. And she just looked at me and she goes, you know what? You don't get everything you want. Like this to me. And the context within that is that this friend of mine, like, she lost her mum when she was like 13. Her dad left the family and shacked up with this other lady. And so she had to go through high school being raised by her brother and sister, who obviously they were grieving, and they didn't sign up to be a parent. They were just wanted to live their own lives. And from that moment on, it just rolled on this never-ending saga for her of bad, like, situations, unfortunate situations. And so for her to come to me and go, you know what, you don't get everything that you want, it really put me in my place, and was like, you know what, I'm right, and I need to be so thankful for what I do have. Yeah. Because, I mean, I love her so much, but I'm so glad I didn't get her life, everything that she's gone through. And it really and even to this day, I still, every now and then, if I find myself being a bit of a sook or a bit of a moaner about things that aren't really that important, I remember that, how she said that to me, and how she said it so straight up, and put me in my place. Like, I actually have so much to be thankful for. Yeah, and that's something that you need to be really careful to, like, making sure that you have that strong relationship with someone before you say that, because without sort of context of who that person is, and where that comes from,
possibly go the other way as well, like saying, well, I'm still hurting. I know that, I should be thankful, but I'm still hurting, so I need to acknowledge this first. So who the heck are you to kind of tell me what that is? So
it's the relationship first, eh?
Yeah, definitely.
Always.
And I think that's real important as well. Like, I know like with my mum going through it, like, people had good intentions to help her, and but often would say the wrong thing, like, oh, you'll get over it. It's just something that she could just shrug off. But but I think it's important, like, building relationships with people and knowing when you can speak direct and when you can just sit there and listen. Like, I think that's important as well.
It is, eh?
Yeah, for sure.
I thought you were going to keep going on that one. Yeah, for sure. Ways that you manage it, Bob?
The same. I think perspective is really helpful. If I can like realign my perspective, or elevate it maybe, because sometimes I can get caught in something down here. But if I can just get up here and see the bigger situation, that's really helpful. And then definitely getting out and outdoors, and great people around me, friends, family.
You told me recently about how you'd started journaling again.
Yeah, I love writing. I always loved writing. I loved writing when I was at school. I was good at English growing up, and it is a good outlet for me to journal. So I find that is a really helpful way, especially like journaling outside. Double combo.
Journal in the outside. Yeah, and gratitude, eh? I mean, we kind of already talked about that, but gratitude for what you do have, and putting that in perspective is really important. Knowing who you are, finding out who you are, and being accepting of who you are is really important as well.
And confident in who you are, right?
Yeah, totally. I did have another question and I've lost it. But
I like how Mel was saying journaling. So recently, my family's just moved out of a house that they were in for 53 years. So my grandma passed away not long ago, and we're just emptying out the house, and we just see so many pieces of paper lying around from my granddad, writing down, and my granddad's 92.
Wow.
And he still writes things down, and I think that's really good for him mentally, because it just keeps him like always writing, always thinking, always just journaling the day and what he's done. Some days will be like amazing. He'll be like, went to church this morning, woke up at 5 a.m, prayed for my grandchildren, and then some days like you'll just see on a piece of paper, woke up and had some porridge, but still like he's still journaling it, and I think that's a really, really good way of dealing with it as well.
That's funny because Asher actually went through my parents' boxes. Was it 2 weeks ago? And he found a journal that I had written when I was 9 years old.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which was funny. Like, and I opened it up and had a look, and like thinking about it now, I could see the process, or like what I had been through and where I am at now.
Yeah,
and,
wow.
like appreciate where I'm at now and how I got there.
Yeah.
So if you're go-to for journaling, that's a good idea.
I just think it's a safe place to write all your emotions.
Yeah.
Like whatever it is.
Yeah.
Hurt, anger, frustration,
Letting things
joy.
out, eh? I think maybe 15 years ago now, maybe a little bit longer, I went through a process with a counsellor where I kind of dealt with some sexual abuse that happened to me when I was a kid, and that was the way that we did it, is that she just got me to write it down, write the experience out, what happened, how you felt, and literally it was almost like as soon as you wrote it down, it just was gone.
Like you could let it go.
No longer were holding on to it. It didn't really have as much power or control over me than literally half an hour ago before I'd written it down. The only thing is I didn't do anything with that journal. Then like my niece goes, "Auntie, I found your journal." I was like, "Oh, okay." She's like, "Can you keep writing?" I was like, "Shut up, you." But yeah, journaling's a really powerful way, and I think we talked heaps, and we have talked heaps about how we tend to keep things bottled up and keep them inside, and they just fester and get uglier and more rotten. So whatever way you can get it out, if talking's not your thing. I know one in one of the episodes said journaling's not her thing. So we're like, sweet, just do it on a video or something like that. Like, there's lots of ways you can do it. I think one of the focuses or the themes that's come through is around having really strong relationships and having people around you that you can walk this journey through. I mean, how do you guys find that having strong relationships has played out in your journey, and how do you be a good mate?
For me, so another thing that I struggled with was when I got married. So I got married, and the first couple of years of marriage was like not good at all, because you're put in a house with someone that you've never lived with before, and you're kind of learning each other's tendencies, and for me that was a really big struggle, because when you get married, it's just you guys. And then if you don't know how to deal with that properly, you end up getting quite quite abusive towards each other verbally. So for me, it was really, really important to have other friends that were married, but also good guys that I could go to and talk to, so they can either say I'm right, but most of the times they would say that I just need to calm down a bit and see from the other side. I saw this I remember this really interesting quote. Loving someone is giving them the ability to destroy your heart, but expecting them not to, or having them the faith not to. So that was for me. You're so vulnerable. You're really, really vulnerable. So anything that your spouse or someone that you love says, that goes straight to the heart. So it was just being able to sort of meet up with those cool supports that I had. Some of my good friends, my cousin was really good support, and some of my mates, my performing arts mates as well. And I would all the time talk to them and expect them to be like, "No, you're right, man. No, she should just go." Yeah. But 95% of the time they'd just be like, "Man, you need to get your head in the game, man. Like,
be humble."
Yeah, and it was then that I realized that marriage or relationships are always work if you put each other's needs first from both sides. So you're always putting her needs first, and she's always putting your needs first, and you're always saying to each other, "I'll do it now, I'll do it now, I'll do it now. You're right, you're right, you're right." And so I was always putting each other's needs first, and once I started learning that from my mates and getting that advice from them, and also heaps of other little gems that really, really helped me grow as not only as a man, but also as a husband as well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think like for myself and my journey, I think relationships were really important. I can remember, like, even though I didn't want to converse with people, like just being around people helped. And I think a huge thing for me growing up was church, because that's where I built good relationships with people.
Yeah.
And I think like on the flip side, with like people who know someone that is going through mental health, I think being present with that person, like even if it's just hanging out with them or just listening to what they have to say and what they're going through is huge.
Yeah.
And I
like that.
Yeah, and I think like for myself, I know that when people are being genuine, and it's a genuine friendship, as opposed to someone that has good intention and they're just doing it out of empathy, or like they feel sorry for you.
Yeah.
So I think being genuine in your relationships with people helps as well. And is huge, because you can tell when people are there for you and when they're not.
Yeah, totally.
But I think in terms of getting like through the journey and helping with the process, building good relationships with people, as mentioned before, where people know when to listen and know when to speak is important. And I think just being present with like just being there for them.
Yeah.
Like even if they tell you to go away, just turn up.
Yeah.
Like
You guys are awesome at that too.
Yeah. I think that's been huge in helping me.
Just drop cheesecake and oysters at their doorstep. That's the kind of thing you do.
So good.
Yeah, I like what you said, just being genuine as well. And you can tell someone if they're genuine or not. I think human nature is, everyone wants to help, Everyone's first reaction is just to go in. Even if they're not genuine about it, they just want to go in and help. But then they end up saying the wrong things, or they end up sort of doing it for the wrong reasons. So, totally being genuine is definitely.
And we touched on that before, didn't we? About like keeping your own emotions in check and not using it as an opportunity to fulfill your own emotional needs.
Yeah, that's it.
And
that's right.
I'm such a good friend because I went and did that for them.
Yeah.
Well, I helped the stranger
when
I was walking home. Yeah.
Totally. I think too, like, you don't have to tell everybody. Like, you don't have to have 20 people that you're talking to about your challenges or your struggles. Like, be wise and selective about who you choose to confide in and who you choose to take advice from. I think it's really crucial. It has been for me. I honestly don't think I would be here as victorious, as joyous as I am today if I didn't have incredible people around me to journey me through those harder, darker times.
I'd say. I was going to say something profound right here.
Something wise.
I keep getting the mind blanks when I hear you talk.
Do I keep making
No, I was going to say, like, when it comes, like, if you, like, relationships are so important. All types of relationships, to help you in your life. And it's important that you understand that and that you prioritize that and that you intentionally invest into the relationships that you have. Like, I think we're so privileged to have such a cool crew of mates that regardless of what happens and how long it may be between connecting, you know that they're still there.
Yeah.
And that when hard times have come, they're there. When good times have come, they're there. But it doesn't just happen. You have to keep showing up. You have to sit there and listen. You have to be present even when you might have a million other things to do and pressing things on your mind. So you have to build that and invest in that so that it's there for you when you need it, and it goes both ways,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
And the more that you know someone, like I said before about my mate that just hit me straight up, because of the depth of our relationship, it was exactly what I needed to hear, and she could say it. Even if it wasn't what I needed to hear, she could still say it anyway because of our level of relationship. Yeah. Another one of my friends who is going through chemotherapy at the moment has lost her hair. She gave me a growling because I was too lazy to do my hair. She was like, make an effort.
At least you got hair.
Okay. Straight away went and did my hair. And I was like, yeah, because here she is going through the hardest physical challenge she's ever been through.
Yeah.
Feeling sick, looking hideous, bald patches all over her head. And here I am going, oh, I can't be bothered brushing my hair today. In her face.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I have friends that are that straight up and call me out. But I also know are the first ones to be there when I'm going through a challenge.
Yeah, hard out.
Yeah. Man. All right, one last chance. Closing remarks, guys. Maybe advice to people about mental health awareness, about mental health, or anything you want to say just to round us out. So with you, Bobby.
I think that if we continue to have these conversations and try and normalise it as much as we can, and play our part in our community to contribute to a better mental health as a society. I think that if we can all take our part and play our role, the world will be a much better place. But it's just knowing what your part and what your role looks like.
Yeah. I mean, who else?
Yeah, for me, it's just knowing that you play a huge part in your friends' lives, in your family's lives, and you have the ability just to be there, to be there for someone, and you don't have to say anything, you don't have to do anything, you just have to be there, and being there is really, really important. So and also having the courage, enough courage to be vulnerable with your closest friends as well, is really, really important, because that's what friends are for. They're there for you, and you got to think to yourself as well, you'll probably be there for them as well. So just being there.
You'll make me cry again, bro.
Sorry. I think for me it would be I think know that you have a voice. I think
Awesome.
Just thinking about what I read in a book called Hope Now by Pastor Paul, it talked about hope is active and not passive, and that we can help to create a greater tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I think which is one of the reasons I came to do this was because I have that hope that other people that are going through what I have been through, or what maybe battling at the moment with mental health, that they also can have a greater tomorrow. And that in them voicing out what they're going through, the emotions and even the darkest times, it's going to help other people as well. That are going through that journey. So so I think for me it would be that you have a voice, and I think also when you speak out about what's going on, it can often have a stigma to it, but know that there's actually people there that actually care about you, and that you don't need to worry about that. About being judged, because we're all here to care and love upon each other. But I think take the courage to step out. and do the things that you enjoy that make you happy.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love that. Courage.
So awesome, eh?
Awesome.
And I think just love yourself, you know.
Yeah.
Be kind to yourself. I've said it so many times today. Get off your own case.
Yeah.
And encourage yourself, because the stronger that you are, the stronger you can be for others as well, eh? But thank you guys so much for joining us on this. I know it's not an easy topic, but we also all know the importance of it. It's good to sit there and push through it, eh? And I think the more that we do it, the easier it becomes. Yeah. And the more that we can hopefully we can be some role models for other people as well. And we can help others find the freedom from mental health disorders, eh?
Yeah.
But awesome. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks for listening
you.
in.
Oh, thanks for having
That's
us.
us, and we'll catch you soon.
Ka kite.
Peace out. Bye.
Ka kite.